Hey, Pat here with another episode of the Fitness Business School. And today I have my good friend and collaborator on so many different projects, Fred Zoller, on, and we're going to talk something a little bit different. So, welcome, Fred.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. So, Fred has been working with me on, business coaching, whether it's been originally products or coaching programs and now some agency work for, the pretty much close to a decade. And, but at the same time, Fred has owned successful businesses in his community, gyms, training businesses, and most recently, uh, Fred purchased a big stake in a baseball facility, and that's really what we want to talk about today. So, Fred, can you give us a little bit of background on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably, let's see, my oldest son now is 13. So probably when he was around 6 years old, we started going to a local baseball, softball training business, which has had multiple iterations now, but it was smaller and in a different spot back in the day. So, just to get some lessons or something, get him ready for baseball, do some extra work. And so fast forward to last year. September of 2024. And we have been going for the past decade. And my daughter and two other sons were going. So I had four people going at the time. And I knew the guys that owned it, we're all involved in the baseball community and everything. One of the guys that actually owned it, I was training his son back when he was younger in the gym, who is now looking to go pro. He's at the I think he's at the single or double A level right now. Just graduated from LSU um a year ago and got drafted. So um obviously his dad started traveling with him at that time, who was one of the owners. And we were in the cages one day doing a lesson, and I heard him say something about, you know, uh probably need to get off the business because he's going to be traveling a lot. He wasn't there as much anymore. He wasn't doing lessons and stuff like that. So I heard him and I inquired. And, because I was already spending a ton of money there, spending 3 and 4 and 5 days a week there at the baseball facility. Um, and even more important than that, I was, with the background with the stuff that you and I do together. I was just looking around saying, hey, I could do a better job with this. And so I had reached out to the other owner and I said, hey, I'd be interested in buying his stake if he's going to be leaving, doing whatever. And he was open to it. And so it took us about a month to get the deal together. And so I purchased it last September was the first day that we started. So now we're a year in. It's called Sport Chew. It's a 15,000 square foot facility that now has 10 batting cages, two pitching lanes, and one batting cage that has the automated pitching machine in it.
Yep.
The 3020 DT, the new one, whatever. So um, it's been doing well. My kids are all still going here. Lessons are a lot cheaper now. Everything else is too.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of upgrades to the facility since I bought it back in the day. A lot of changes, just from a business structure, merchant, billing, fees, different types of software, staff, paying, you name it. They were running it as a side gig, right? They had both have kids playing ball. They were both former college baseball players, which is typically what happens in that situation, and they just don't have the business. I wouldn't say they're not smart enough to do it. They probably just don't have the background to do it. And so rather than sharing my ideas, I figured I would just buy it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, when you took over, kind of running the business side of things, gross revenue, about how much was the business doing?
They were probably doing around 25 to 27,000 a month.
Okay.
Yep.
And what do you guys do now, roughly?
We are we stay somewhere around 38 to 45,000 a month.
Okay, so I mean, pretty much in the neighborhood of a 50% lift. And
Yeah, it's been higher at times, you know how it is. The coaches kind of come and go. That's one of the bigger challenges with that business. It's kind of similar to a training model, which was one of the bigger issues when I got there, is that they were just kind of letting everybody run their own side gigs out of there, and it's very hard to change that. Once you come on board and you have a lot of older coaches, people that have been doing it for a long time and stuff like that. So, but a lot of the initial revenue bump was simple things
yeah.
like reducing expenses that were unnecessary, change, like I mentioned before, changing software, increasing the prices, well, I walked in and I was like, I can tell you right now, we can do something. I had 5 grand a month right away.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's kind of where I'd be interested in going with this and talking maybe tactical stuff like, okay, one by one, picking, okay, did this item, this item, this item, this item, and the result is a lift of 50% in revenue in a year's time, and that's being conservative, knowing that you have been above that at certain points. So let's just go kind of item by item. So you switch merchant processing so you could um you know get better margins and probably streamline things a little bit. So that was first, but then you said you adjusted some prices.
yeah, so let's go back to the merchant thing. The first thing I did is I looked at the statement and I looked at the fees and I said, there's no way. And I said, how much are we taking in on credit cards? And I started thinking about it, just simple math in my head, and they were paying like 8%. And I was like, there's no way. So basically, they just weren't paying attention to it. It was just growing and growing. So that was one thing. But the other thing was is that they weren't adding fees to the when people charge with a credit card,
Yeah.
right? So we went in and we nixed that. I told them, I said, call them and tell them we're canceling immediately. No questions asked. We don't want to talk about any kind of rate decreases or anything like that. I had somebody local that I'd already known that we got it down to 3.3%. And then we added 3.5% to every transaction. And so we saved it was literally like $3,000 a month right away. Um, and then we went into, so the way they had the business running, they had, a cage membership, and then they were doing lessons.
Yeah.
The initial problem was the cage membership was probably about 50% of the average. And then they were doing half price for siblings. So I looked at the numbers and they were like, yeah, man, we need to get more memberships. So I did an analysis of the space of the gym.
Yeah.
And I said, you can't really have a lot more membership. Why? And I'm like, because that's why people are sitting out there. They're upset. They have nowhere to go. The cages are all full. There's no parking. And they were like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, you're not charging enough.
Yeah.
So very simply, a simple analysis. I mean, most people that are in this business will understand very quickly what it costs to go to a batting facility. You can look at some of there's a few of the franchise options, and I was like, yeah, we're 50 to 75% lower than some of them.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you're letting siblings go for half, which is ridiculous. I mean, like it's just not a possibility. Um, so we went in and we took a look at it, and I said, hey, how many can we fit in this facility without ticking everybody off? Because it always sounds great to have your facility packed until it's not, right? Until you show up and the cages are all reserved and people sit there and they can't get in, and then they feel like they're just wasting their money. And so they were probably at about 280 memberships at the time. I figured it out to where we could have about 350, and I said, well, let's work back from 350 to see what we want to make from this, right? And so we did two things. We increased the prices and we added two membership levels. So now they have a basic membership and a premium membership. And so that was the first thing that we did. And those two things alone had us well into the green before we ever even started really making any, formal changes to how we were training, the session delivery, different stuff like that, because everybody was kind of doing their own thing.
So, I mean, these are things available to most business owners because you get so far into the weeds that you're not really looking at this sort of stuff, right? You get caught up in delivering sessions, putting out fires, handling admin, maybe doing enough to keep some people through the door. And the two things you've alluded to now don't even start to scratch the surface on actually going out and marketing the business. It's just cleaning up some things internally. So, all right, so we've got tightening up the merchant processing. We've got improving the membership model to make it more profitable and probably a lot more client friendly too. What's next?
So thirdly, we did two things. We increased the pricing on the way that they were delivering sessions. And so when I first got there, every coach was just doing 30-minute lessons, which is pretty normal across the board. Which is fine, but that presents a couple of different problems. So we basically, so like I had mentioned, and when I first bought in, there were 11 cages because one was still being used for lessons, the one that we have the automated pitching machine in now. Um, so what I did was I sat down with the other owner and I said, let me tell you what's the problem with this. And he said, well, I don't get it. What's the problem? The guys are full. They're all happy. And I said, yeah, but you have 4 or 5 guys that are full, meaning they take up an entire cage the whole entire time we're open, right? They're all not happy with the amount of money they're making because they're doing 30-minute lessons and that's capped, right? At a price that was less than what other people were charging. And I said, now you're trying to increase the number of regular memberships that we have and there's no cage space. And they were like, oh yeah, what do we do about that? And I said, well, any one-to-one training model is going to have a ceiling. Okay. And you can't charge anything that you want, right? There is a cap on what you can charge. So the first thing we did was I basically went in, I had a team meeting and I said, no one will ever get another raise. We cannot pay y'all more than what you're making. And they were doing a commission structure, which we changed. And I said, this is very simply why, because you're taking up our entire cage and the majority of the money. And like this business model just does not work. Right. And so you're capped, we're capped, everybody's unhappy. And so we did two things. We increased the pricing on all the lessons, but we also tied it to membership options. So for example, you get a basic membership, you pay a little bit less for a lesson, but we increased them. If you have a premium membership, you pay a little bit less for lessons, right? But then you pay a higher membership option. So we were getting the money on the back end that we were losing because recurring revenue was always better.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then, of course, the guys are a little taken aback by the fact that they can't get any more money. And I said, but I'm going to show you how to make money in different ways. And so what we did, we started doing group lessons, group classes, all kinds of different sessions, basically showing the guys how to do even some of the more advanced stuff like the higher level pitching guys, they could do, camps, clinics, different types of seminars, arm care, all kind of different things. And most people don't realize just adding one person to a session changes the way you get paid astronomically. Right? So if you're doing 30 lessons a week with one person, 30 lessons a week with 2 people is a massive, massive raise. Right?
Yeah.
So better for the client, they pay a little less. Better for the coach, they make a little more. Better for us, we make a little bit more. So, and it was hard for them. They're like, I don't know how I'm going to do 2 people at one time. So this is what I did. Pretty smart. Went and sat in a gym inside the facility and recorded guys doing sessions. And I went back and I showed them and I said, okay, in a 30-minute lesson, you're actually doing about 12 to 15 minutes of actual instruction. Why can't you add another person? Because some of the younger kids, it's a lot of fluff, right? No one can swing a bat for 30 straight minutes without stopping. Yep. There's a little warm up, there's some talking, there's drills in between, and I told them, I said, we can make a simple training session format just to kind of get you started, right? Because everybody has their little nuances whenever they do their training. It's like 2 kids or even 3 kids. Now they're starting to get brave. Sometimes it's 4 kids, then you can do an hour because they're still paying less. Which we're good at it now. And of course, once somebody makes $90 in an hour, right? Versus 38, they don't want to turn back after that, right? So just telling them, hey, evaluate the kids, create a couple of drills, do the drills, and do something live, just like you would do at a baseball practice, right?
Yep.
Like, um, it's just a reality of where we're at, not just in training, but I mean, in baseball, but in training in general, right? Like, people can't just do a lot of one-to-one stuff anymore. There's not enough time, energy, or money with that. So, that was, and I'll get into how we tied it into the marketing, whenever we get that to a second. But just hearing that, like one of the reasons I wanted to buy the business is I looked at it and I said, wow, there are mega changes that can be made that are relatively easy to do that will make a massive impact in your business. If you understand your business, if you understand your cages, how much time, space, like the number of hours in a week. That was the other thing. They were closed on Saturdays and Sundays. And I was like, why? First thing we did when I went in there, I'm like, dude, we're open Saturday. We're open 7 days a week, 10 to 5 on Saturday, 12 to 5 on Sunday. Why? I'm like, you realize how many more memberships you can have just with that? And how many times me as a dad and a coach was looking for somewhere to go on the weekends, you know? And so they said, well, we tried it before, and the first couple of days, nobody showed up. And I'm like, well, you got to give it some time. And so now you open up for team practices, you open up for camps, you open up for clinics. And I mean, the list goes on and on. It was, again, all of this stuff is still very simple. I mean, it's stuff that we've done, shown people to do in gyms and stuff like that all around the country. So, um,
Nice. So, all right. So you change the format of the service delivery to get more value per client or value per coach per month. So let's get into a little bit of the marketing. Let's talk about how you upgraded the marketing.
so when I first got in there, they weren't doing anything. They had a business Facebook page. That was about it. That people were scarcely posting on. And very simply because there was really nobody to do it. There was nobody in charge. The only actual employee at the time, well, we still, is the front desk staff. Everybody else was just coaches, including the two guys that were owning it. And so now with me being there, I'm not really doing any lessons because I can't. I'm coaching in my own children and all my teams and stuff like that. Um, so that was the new aspect of me buying it, was making those changes, and now I'm the marketing guy, right? And so I tried that. Everything was just word of mouth. Their friends would go tell them, hey, they see me playing better. What have you been doing? I'm going to this guy, and I would come in and do a lesson, which is fine. But there were no referral incentives for anybody to go out and do it. There were no trials for cage memberships. There were no player evaluations, or basically anything. And so the very simple thing that you could do is, you have to let people come in and see what it's like to come in and rent a cage, or like, come in and, why would I even go to this place? How is it beneficial for me? Um, so we created a trial membership, cage membership, that comes with a player evaluation, right? And a complimentary lesson, right? And so very simply put, they come in, they get access to the cages for 2 weeks. They can have unlimited access. Um, they meet with the coach. Coach does a player evaluation, which is something they would do all automatically already. They just weren't really saying they were doing that. And then they would do a lesson, which is like give them a few drills, but most dads, if you're in there to do this, you're not going to be able to do it on your own, right? So then we would say, hey, if you want, we can do a lesson or two a week and execute these drills, and your son or daughter would get better. And so that was the one marketing piece that we did automatically. Outside of organic social media, I'm like, we have 10 or 11 coaches that are executing lessons 7 days a week, and there's no footage. So now the front desk employees have to go in and they take a bunch of pictures every evening when we do training, some candid videos, and then we repost them, and then we offer the cage membership organically. And now most of the people that I've seen are not interested in doing paid advertising, but it's foolish if you're not. It's very simple to run a paid ad to a cage membership that you get all this extra stuff. It works like a charm. It's super simple to do. It's wildly effective. And then the organic piece that I added to it is just it's always convincing parents, why they need to come in and do this. And nowadays, I mean, anybody that's in this industry would know, right? Like it's much more competitive. People are traveling at a young age. Their kids are not having great experiences if they can't compete. And so this offer just makes sense. So if I say, hey, here's a video of a kid when he's starting, here's a video of a kid 2 months later, you can see a radical change in their ability to hit or throw or pitch or do whatever it is. Would you like a free cage membership, a complimentary evaluation, and a lesson? The answer is always yes. So if the answer is always yes, how do I get more yeses? Put it in front of more people. And have an email. They weren't doing email marketing. So I went in there. This excites me. I learned this from you, obviously. I was like, wait a second. Let me look at all these softwares. Ended up having like almost a 4,000 person list. And so now I'm emailing 2 to 3 times a week to, it's probably down to about 3,000 now. And we're saving emails, I could go on and on. We redid the website. We put the offer on the website. Um, and that was the initial piece in marketing. And from what I can gather, you don't really need now. There's a lot of other stuff that we're doing, and I'll cover that too if you want. But that's really the simple marketing piece that I really don't see anywhere else.
So, a couple of the things I know I wanted to touch on. One, you added the automated pitching machine in as just as another tool that allows you to leverage your facility. Talk a little bit about that.
So we were frequenting, me and my kids were frequenting a local franchise organization, and we were going in, and it's just exciting to go in there and use the automated pitching machine, especially if it has the hit tracks, um, which we don't have the hit tracks yet, but we have two Rapsodos, so we can kind of produce the same thing. There's a TV on the wall. It's a little bit hard, a little setup. It's not automatic. Um, and that was the difference with in our facility compared to some of the other bigger ones was that we just didn't have an automated pitching machine. Now we do have two other pitching machines, that are, self-directed. But we don't let regular members use those because one of them throws very hard and you got to be real careful, and dads really typically don't know how to use it. Now, if we have dads that are coaches that we know will allow them to use it, and we have a little pitching machine that they can use to do like little drills like ground balls and stuff like that. But in my mind, like I was telling my business partner, I'm like, sooner or later there's going to be a franchise around here. We want to be the guy that has the stuff before them whenever they come here, right? Because I know that that's what's going to happen. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we realized there was in my mind, there was a section of membership that we weren't getting, which is the kids who have dads that are not baseball guys. You ever seen one of those guys come in and try to pitch to their kids? I would go into cages later at night. I'm looking and I would just tell the guy, I say, hey, look, like, I'm not trying to convince you to do lessons or anything. It's probably not a good idea to throw to your kid like that. And he's jumping all over in the cage, picking up all kinds of bad habits. And they're like, yeah, I still really know how to do it. And they would do some T work. And so we did two things. We added the automated pitcher machine. We also had 2 sessions a week where a coach is just in a cage doing BP for parents who can't do it on their own and maybe can't afford regular lessons like most people. And so that probably brought in, who knows, 20 to 40 memberships just with that. Because I would talk to people. I go to parks. I'm all over the place, and they would say, "Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We really can't afford to do lessons." And I had no idea how to do, pitching, so we just don't do it. Ding, ding, ding. So now we have the automated pitching machine, and we tied it to the memberships, right? So if you have a basic membership, you have to pay for credits. It's $3 for 12 balls, which is not bad. It's pretty inexpensive. But if you go to the premium membership, then you get unlimited balls. So the first thing that we did was we put it in there and we did an internal promotion. Hey, upgrade your membership, pay for the premium, which is $15 more a month, and you get unlimited credits. So you can come in anytime you want and hit. And the machine does all kind of different things. It's got like, I don't know, 70 different pitches. So you can work on change ups, fastballs, breaking balls, sliders, all kind of different stuff. And so we got not as many upgrades as I would want to, because some of the guys are a lot busy, but eventually they're going to learn that I just pay the extra $15, and because that's going to be better than going in and my son, because I already knew from my own kids that $3 or $4 turned into 50 or 60 fast. So as of now, and I'm still kind of testing it, that's how we have it. And it's been working well.
So the other thing I wanted to touch on, and this is kind of getting a little bit outside your scope of what you're doing just there, but I know you ran a campaign for one of our other clients recently who's opening up a baseball facility to help kind of seed his audience, build his list. How's that going?
Fantastic. As of this morning, 149 leads in 2 weeks. And so if you're in the baseball, softball world, you know, baseball bats, not gloves as much, but baseball bats are like cell phones. Every year you need a new size and a new bat. There's a new version of something. And so what way to better, well, I mean, what better way to get leads than to do a bat giveaway or a glove giveaway or a bat raffle, however you decide to do it. So like for us, we're doing it 4 times a year. We partner with Rawlings and Easting. We have a local office here in our city. They give us a discounted bat, which it didn't matter anyway because it's well worth. Um, and you could run a simple ad to that, and you get a couple hundred leads. And then once they opt in, they get a cage membership. You know, they get our front end offer on the back end. And so it's just an absolute game changer. And I kind of got the idea one weekend. Not that it's a pretty simple idea, but we went to a local travel tournament, and a team was out there selling tickets, raffle tickets for a bat. Get any kind of bat you want. I think it was like $5, and I was like, huh, I could do that for free and get leads. He had like 600 or 700 leads, like 600 or 700 people. I was like, man, and I'm more thinking build my list. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cage memberships, but if you get a 5 or 10,000 person list in your city, it's a complete game changer for your business and super simple to do. And every single kid on the planet wants a new bat. I don't care if they just got one 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Not the truth. I mean, I love all this because this really brings me full circle, right? The first business I got into after I was a college baseball coach, college strength coach, was running a baseball facility. Ironically enough, I saw the guy who was the founder and primary owner of it a couple weeks ago at a baseball tournament. But so that was kind of how I cut my teeth in business. And so it's fun. I spend, like you, spend incredible amounts of time at a couple different baseball facilities. And so being able to watch you come in here and infuse a lot of the things that we talk about with gym owners every day is pretty awesome. I mean, it's just been great to see because one of the things I recognized when I got into the business coaching side of things was, it was the baseball facility stuff was pretty antiquated at the time. It was a lot of just one-on-one cash pay. It felt like the training facility had about a decade earlier, and it just seemed like at the time. But now, it's it's caught up. I mean, a lot of facilities have technology, whether we're talking about hit tracks or Repsoda or TrackMan or a combination of things, and some even go further with like force plate mounds and different things. But it's definitely uh, caught up. I mean, more people are doing subscription billing. More people are moving into leveraged models with small group training. So I'm really excited about that market. I'm really excited about the opportunities we occasionally get now to work with baseball facilities and help them see the same jump that we've seen the gym owners we work with see. But I think what's so cool about this is, I mean, you just basically went and kind of did the test kitchen and said, okay, we're going to go and turn this around in a year, 50% more revenue, which, I mean, if you guys are doing the math early on in this, I mean, this is far more than a six-figure lift in the first year for revenue, and it's only going up from there.
Yeah, and with the, with the way we have it set up with the recurring model and the memberships and how the memberships are tied to cheaper lessons, and then the lessons being two people or three people or four people instead of one, that whole thing makes successful business a whole lot easier. Because most baseball people like myself, if there was a, I already know my kids really don't need one to one. They
Yep.
just don't. So if somebody said I could go from $40 in 30 minutes to $30 in 30 minutes and have two other kids, I'm fine with that because I know that that's what they need, right? Like, and and then I get a membership and I can go in by myself and use it, like, and it just goes on and it makes sense. And the people that we get stay because they're tied in a couple of different ways, right? Because if they don't do the membership, they got to pay a lot more for a lesson. You see what
Yep.
I'm saying? And so if they do the lower membership, then they got to pay for swings. And it's like, we're trying to move them to where they say, you know what? It's, if I do the math myself, it's better for me to have the premium and do this thing. And then I get cheaper lessons that I can go longer. I have this access and I have access to all these other things. So do the math on that. 350 people, it could be very substantial and very, very simple to do, and that's just the marketing part. That's just a minimal piece. We're adding baseball teams. We want to have at least one team in every age group. We're doing camps. We're doing clinics. We have team practices. We also use our place for baseball birthday parties, which is the deal that we give people is just untouchable with what the kids can do when they go in there. And every boy wants a baseball party,
Yep.
so like I could go on and on and on and on about, and maybe every baseball guy don't want to do that, but like for our size facility, we kind of, it's like we see it sitting around and we're like, all right, well, what can we do with it? Right. And so the other thing is collaboration. We working with parents and stuff like that. That's great. But how do we work with all these? My city is full travel baseball teams. And so what dawned on me was when it started to rain, it was like there was no space in the facility. And I'm like, oh, indoor cage practices.
Yep.
So we set up an indoor cage practice deal with people. Right. And so that stays recurring. So they can bank those or they can use those when it's raining, or they can just come in when they only want to do like drills or hitting and stuff like that, or bullpens and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been really easy for me. I'm already there. It was like going in like a seasoned vegetable and just doing like some of the minimal stuff. But yeah, it's awesome.
I love it. I love it. Well, man, I'm just glad you came on. I thought this would be a cool thing to do an episode about. I mean, both you and I are diehard baseball guys, so it's fun to see you be able to kind of mix the two things. You spend so much time with the business stuff and the baseball stuff, and do great work. So yeah, and if anybody checks this out and has a baseball facility and want to kind of audit what they're doing and look for some opportunities, yeah, just uh, shoot me a message at pat@rigsby.com, and Fred and I'll kind of get under the hood and see if there's a way we can help you. So yeah,
Yeah.
Fred, thanks a bunch, and that's another episode of the Fitness Business School. Signing off.